Welcome to Chapter 6, Unemployment. I want to encourage everyone to watch the video lecture for this chapter. I recorded this to explain the last couple slides of this presentation, and it is information that is not included in the text. So I want to encourage everyone to spend the 6 or 7 minutes and watch that video. The labor force. All persons age 16 and over who are either employed or actively seeking work make up the labor force. Those not actively looking for work are not considered part of the labor force, and as we'll see in a minute, are not counted as part of the unemployment statistic. The impact of labor force growth. Our labor force grows through both immigration and people coming of age, people reaching age 16 and starting to look for work. Our labor force is primarily growing through immigration right now because of our low birth rate, and that looks like it's going to continue for quite a while. As you can see, as the labor force grows, the production possibility curve increases outward, which means the economy is growing. So through increased labor, we get an increase in the size of our economy. Unemployment. The unemployment is defined as the inability of labor force participants to find jobs. Okay. So that means that people who want jobs and are looking for jobs can't find them. Okun's law states that there's a 1% increase in unemployment, and that results in a 2% decrease in GDP. During the Great Recession, we saw a substantial increase in unemployment. And at first we saw a decrease in GDP to make the law true, but then the GDP started trending back upward, which looked to have violated this law. However, the reason the GDP trended upward was because we were falsely inflating the money supply. We were printing money to create GDP. And in doing so, we violated this law. However, if we had not increased our money supply to inflate GDP, this law would have held true. Measuring unemployment. A person is counted as unemployed if he or she is not working but actively seeking work. This is extremely important. I'll say it again. A person is counted as unemployed if he or she is not working but is actively seeking work. So if you have removed yourself from the labor force, you are not looking for work, you have decided to just lay on your couch and watch TV all day, you are not counted as unemployed. You have to be looking for work. The unemployment rate is the proportion of the labor force that is unemployed. You can see through the calculation that it's the number of unemployed people divided by the total labor force. For 2010, we had about 15 million people unemployed and about 154 million people in the labor force, and that gave us 9.6%. Demographics of unemployment. The unemployment rate is higher for men than women, blacks and Hispanics than whites, less educated people, more so than higher educated people, and teenagers are more often unemployed than those older than them. These are just demographic trends. It's not really the point of this class to analyze them too deeply. That'd be more for a sociology course. However, it should be stated that these trends do tend to hold true year after year and have been this way for quite a while. And there tends to be reasons for all of them if you want to dig into it a little deeper. Duration of unemployment. How long does joblessness last? When the economy is growing, both the unemployment rate and the duration increase. So a good economy means lower unemployment and lower unemployment time. So if you are unemployed, you're not going to be unemployed for as long. When the economy stagnates or goes into decline, both the unemployment rate and duration increase. So you're more likely to lose your job in a bad economy, and the length of time you're going to be unemployed increases. Reasons for unemployment. The reasons for unemployment, first, are 63% are people who've lost their jobs. Re-entrants, 23%. So this is a very important number and one that's going to play a big role in our unemployment moving forward into the next decade. These are people who lost jobs and exited the labor force altogether. They decided, oh, I'm not going to even look for a job. I'll just wait till things get better. And then they jump back in to looking for a job. And during that time, once they decide, I'm going to look for a job again, they are once again calculated in unemployment. And until they find a job, they are in that calculation. New entrants. These are the new people to the job market. People who have just turned 16 and are now looking for a job. People who have just immigrated to this country and are now looking for a job. And job leavers. These are people who intentionally quit their jobs and join the unemployment ranks and to try and find a newer, better, hopefully, job. Discouraged workers. Former job seekers who have given up and no longer actively seek employment. They drop out of the labor force. They are no longer counted in unemployment statistics. We've already discussed that. Underemployment. People who want full-time work in their field but can only find part-time work or work at jobs below their capability. They are counted as employed. Once again, very important when looking at the unemployment statistic. In recent years, this underemployed number has skyrocketed. People are finding part-time work. Now, they're counted as employed, but this is still not ideal. They're working a few hours a week instead of full-time. This underemployment number is also going to go up quite a bit when Obamacare goes into full effect. It already is creeping up because Obamacare requires health care for anyone working 30 hours or more per week. Well, employers have figured out they could get around having to provide health care to their employees by simply cutting them back from 40 hours plus per week to 29 or less. At this point, they become underemployed, they make less money, and they have no health care. This is becoming increasingly common to the point where it's almost expected for many people that when they go apply for a job, the job will only be for 29 hours a week. It'll be interesting to see how this resolves itself in coming years. Defining full employment. This is an important concept. What is full employment? Full employment is not the same as zero unemployment, I should say. So fully employed is not zero unemployment. Zero unemployment, as far as we know, from an economic perspective, does not exist. Okay, there are 4 categories of unemployment. Seasonal unemployment, fictional unemployment, structural unemployment, and cyclical unemployment. At full employment, all of these exist except cyclical, and we're going to define each of these in the coming slides. Seasonal unemployment. Unemployment due to seasonal changes in employment. The Labor Department reports seasonally adjusted unemployment rates for every month. The unemployment department, when you see the unemployment number of, say, 8%, they make all sorts of adjustments to those numbers based on what season it is and what kind of adjustments based on the season. Now, what does that really mean, seasonal unemployment? Well, think of lifeguards as seasonal employment. You don't really need them during the year, but at the local pool, you need them during the summer. That's seasonal. Extra workers at the mall for the Christmas season. You hire on a bunch of high school and college kids to help out at the counters during the Christmas rush. That's seasonal employment. Frictional unemployment. Brief periods of unemployment experienced by people moving between jobs or into the labor market. These are people who are unemployed typically for very short periods of time. Say your spouse moves the family across the country for a new job and you have to quit your job during that time, and then once you get to the place where you're moving to, you look for a job and find one. That would be frictional unemployment. This is often unemployment due to a desire to change careers, get re-educated. That's part of this, but it's mainly just for what something in life happens where you need to do a quick job change, and you may be unemployed a few weeks or a month or so. Structural unemployment. This is caused by a mismatch between the skills of the job or location of job seekers and the requirements or location of available jobs. This, for example, would be somebody who used to work as, I'll use an old example, they used to make horse-drawn carriages, and then they have to have a time of unemployment when we stop making horse-drawn carriages and move to automobiles. Most likely those same folks will get retrained as coach builders, which was what they called the first cars. I won't get into how cars used to be made. I was very tempted there for a second, but you put the coaches on top of the frame for the cars, and that's what made cars. And so they would move from these horse-drawn carriages to these coaches and automotive assembly lines, and usually those are the same workers, but you would have a time of structural unemployment while they came up with a new skill set, were retrained, maybe their job became obsolete and they need to find a new one. Cyclical unemployment. This is unemployment caused by a decline in economic activity. So this is what happened during the Great Recession. The economy slows way down, there's not as much money circulating, and the economy cannot support as many jobs. And in that case, people are laid off or fired to lower costs so that the business can still stay in business because they have less income, less sales revenue coming in due to the lower economic activity. So less money coming into the business, less money to pay workers. If the business wants to stay in business, they need to lower their costs and lower their workforce. So economists think that we are near full employment when rising prices signal that we are nearing production capacity. So when we start to get some inflationary activity, that means that we are nearing full employment. That's because people are having to pay workers more in order to attract them, and that's going to drive prices up because it's going to cost more to make items. It's also going to give more people more money in the population, so the demand for a lot of items is going to go up since there's more people who are demanding it, and that will also drive prices up. Inflationary flashpoint, the rate of output at which inflationary pressures intensify, and at full employment, the lowest unemployment rate compatible with price stability, with zero cyclical unemployment. So we have no cyclical unemployment, no unemployment due to the economy, and it's the lowest unemployment rate in which the prices stay pretty much the same and they don't feel inflationary pressure. Full employment traditionally ranges between 4 and 6%. That's what we found over the years. We had periods of full employment during George W. Bush's administration where we saw unemployment very low, and we actually felt a little bit of inflationary pressure because of the labor rate. The unemployment rate did get so low. Changes in structural unemployment. Changes in structural unemployment come from changes in society itself. Changing demographics, changing in transfer payments for the jobless, products change in demand. We're all demanding, they thought that the demand for green products would create structural unemployment as we shifted to companies that go green. This really hasn't happened yet, but it could still. Change in how and where products are made. We have seen this. This is something that is happening as more products are made overseas and we switch to a service economy here. There's a change in structural employment. Those who were on manufacturing lines now need to learn how to do service-oriented jobs. The natural rate of unemployment. This is the long-term rate of unemployment determined by structural forces in the labor and product market. So what is our natural unemployment rate? What do we need to be satisfied with? Where is it going to settle if all things being equal? Natural unemployment rate. Okay, let's look at some additional numbers. This is the basic unemployment rate since 1977. You could see it bounce and go down, and it actually dropped during the Carter administration. Most people don't think that happened. But it did, and it really went up at the very end of Carter and the beginning of Reagan. It really skyrocketed. Then the big tax cuts went into place, and it dropped from the high 9s to the mid 5s percent under Reagan. It went up during Bush Sr., and then had a long, slow decline during the Clinton administration where it got down to about 4% during the tech boom, where the economy was growing like crazy. When the internet really took full force. And then under George W. Bush, we had a little mini recession after the tech bubble burst and 9/11 happened. We had a little increase there, and then it dropped once again into the fours under Bush, and then at the very tail end of Bush and through the beginning of Obama, it really skyrocketed as the Great Recession took hold, and it's been slowly declining ever since. We're going to talk about why here in a second. The participation rate has, as you can see, our workforce slowly increased very consistently. I'm sorry for the confusing dates there at the bottom. They're all kind of jammed together there. Until about 2001. And then the participation percentage, that's the number on the left, we peaked just over 67% of the people in the population were in the labor force. And that's dropped into it's actually down under 63 right now. It's continued to plummet in recent years. And so our unemployment rate is dropping because there's less people in the workforce and looking for work. So that really explains most of the drop that we saw on the previous side in unemployment over the last year and a half or so. Looking at the number of people employed, this is the total number of people in the workforce. And you can see that this number has slowly increased. We had a decrease there at the beginning of the Great Recession, and it's actually kind of starting to decrease again right now in 2013. Percentage of people unemployed, percentage of population employed. So this is the percentage of the total population that have jobs. And we can see that that number once again has been dropping recently. So here's some stats, and this is what's covered in the video, but I wanted to also have it covered in this PowerPoint presentation so you have the actual numbers. The video, it's kind of slick and they throw numbers up there, but I wanted you guys to have access to the real numbers as well in this format. So 130,000 is the number of new jobs per month needed to keep up with the 30-year rolling average historical population growth. So we need to add 130,000 jobs per month to keep up with population growth. Okay, 11.3% is the current unemployment rate when factoring in the reduction in workforce. So if we calculate all the people that have left the workforce really since the beginning of the Great Recession, our unemployment rate would be about 11% right now. It's dropped just a hair from 11.3 when I originally did these numbers. But if it's ever asked on a test or a quiz, it'd be 11.3. Jobs created per month since 6 months after the 2009 stimulus. So the reason for this statistics is the stimulus in 2009 was designed to create jobs and guaranteed job creation. And that's the number of jobs. You figure it would take 6 months or so to get rolling. So since 6 months after the stimulus was put into place, we've added about 95,000 jobs per month. Once again, when you see that we need 130,000 jobs to just not go backwards, we're still 35,000 jobs short. A little more than that actually, almost 36,000 jobs short per month on average of where we need to be just not to move backwards. In order to get back to 5% unemployment at the 30-year rolling average participation rate, we need to average the following increases per month over the following periods of time. So if we were to average 500,000 new jobs per month, we've never had 500,000 new jobs in a month. We would still need to do it for 27 consecutive months to get back to 5% unemployment with our previous participation rate, our historical participation rate. At 400,000 jobs new per month, I want to say we've done this a couple times, but never consecutively. Still 37 months in a row, for over 3 years in a row, every month we would need to add 400,000 new jobs. So if we were to average 300,000 new jobs, so 300,000 jobs, we've never averaged that many for more than a few months at a time. We would still need to do this for almost 5 years to get back to where we were not that long ago. We would need to average 200,000 jobs per month, which historically is still very ambitious. We have never averaged 200,000 jobs per month for an extended period of time. But if we were to do it it would still take us 11 years to get back to where we were. And if we were to average 150,000 new jobs per month, it would take us 32 years to get back to where we were. And the significance of the 150,000 number is that is about, if you look at that same 30-year rolling average, that's about what we are capable of averaging historically. So if we just average that 150,000 a month for the next, that we have in the past, if we continue that into the future, to get back to our 30-year rolling average participation rate and 5% unemployment, we're looking at 32 years. Not an optimistic scenario, and it's quite frightening how far down our labor situation has gone. But this is all not to say that something unprecedented can't happen. It happens all the time. For us to come and average 300,000 jobs for a long period of time is quite possible. It's never been done, but it's definitely possible. And so it will take some innovation and a new economy to do so, like the tech boom or some other new technology that really pushes our economy forward. If something like that were to come up, it's definitely possible. This talks about how we did average, prior to the crash, 150,000 jobs per month. We've only averaged more than 300,000 jobs per month over a one-year period twice since 1977. And we have averaged between 200,000 and 300,000 jobs, I apologize for the typos, 9 times since 1977. We've never averaged more than 347 jobs over a one-year period. But once again, just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it can't.